Welcome to Technology Times Digital Transformation Thought Leadership Series, where we engage with policymakers, leaders, decision makers, leaders of institutions and organizations on key information and communication technology issues, policies, and all of that. And we're pleased to have you today on the show. So just for the records, give us an idea of your organization and what it does.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity to be here. My name is Adaobi Olaye, and I represent the Data Privacy Professionals Group. So the Data Privacy Professionals Group essentially is a group of industry professionals who share one thing in common, who have an interest in deepening their awareness, knowledge, and then opportunity to share, insights and information around data protection and privacy. Yes.
Essentially, at some point, your organization or your association saw the need to create a body that is solely dedicated to data privacy and protection in Nigeria. What basically stimulated this prompting? Why do you think that the time was right for such an initiative in Nigeria?
Okay, I'd just like to take you back to sometime in 2019 where the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation came into effect. So essentially, the concept behind that particular regulation stipulated that, information privacy and the privacy of, individuals like myself and yourself should take front and center stage when it comes to the rights to privacy online. So the Data Privacy Professionals Group, or Hub, became a necessity because we had industry professionals who were then tasked with the responsibility of furthering the vision that was encapsulated in that regulation and essentially driving it from the get-go. So we saw a need to come together and then start to share ideas on how to push that vision and turn it from something written on paper to give it life, essentially.
Well, if we look across Nigeria and across the world today, connectivity is breaking down barriers across information exchange, commerce, and other areas. And it's also creating a seemingly borderless world in which we all live, work, and play today, with virtual every single one of us not being able to do with an always-on connectivity. Okay, why does privacy and privacy protection matter in a world that is today fused together by connectivity from a professional's point of view, like this?
Okay, I'm glad that you have identified the increasing level of connectivity that we are experiencing, especially with e-commerce and the need for individuals to transact and essentially have a life both online and offline. So what it does for us now is that it also presents a very precarious situation. Being online comes at a cost, and the cost is both to the user and then to also what we reference as the business organizations or data processing entities. So the cost to you as an individual is that your privacy is then at risk. It has become increasingly clear that transacting online is not something that you do in hiding. You have information that you share on a global platform that is accessible to multiple parties. And privacy has become an intrinsic part of controlling how information is moved from one spot to another, and essentially ensuring that people like myself and yourself are protected and their information is secure while online.
So in that respect, we've seen also that the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation otherwise known as NDPR in your industry space, came into effect in January 2019 with the broad powers over data privacy and protection for Nigerians living within and outside the country. How does your organization, how do you assess the level of the NDPR implementation journey thus far?
The NDPR initiative is one that is in furtherance of the digital transformation agenda of Nigeria as it speaks. So it became one of the key things to focus on when, as a country, we realized that the importance of us having a trustworthy platform or trustworthy framework for people to do business online is now a global need. So for Nigeria today, we have not the best reputation when it comes to doing business online, because we've had issues around cybersecurity and online data breaches. So I believe that in 2019, the National Information Technology Development Agency, that is the regulatory supervisory authority, fundamentally is in charge of the NDPR. You understand? So what they tried to do was encapsulate through the regulation ways and means that individuals' rights to privacy will be protected while they are transacting online. So I believe that informed the decision to focus in the area of data privacy and data protection. Now, the concept of data privacy is one that is embodied in the right to privacy, meaning that everyone has the right to, essentially believe that their information is being managed in a secure and developed manner. However, we have had in the history of the evolution of the online business framework that there have been areas of concern around cybersecurity. We've had a couple of internet breaches, both locally and globally, that have informed a global ideology around protecting user information online.
Okay, the federal government has also set up the Nigeria Data Protection Bureau, NDP, as the nation's data privacy ombudsman institution for the federal government. What does DPP think about the establishment of this government agency and its related mandate?
Okay, now the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau essentially becomes the watchdog for this particular regulation. Now, what I believe the federal government has done in creating this particular platform is provide access to both the individuals whose data is being collected, stored, and managed, as well as the organizations, to more or less bring them together to be, in unison as to how to proceed in managing the, relationship. Now, what we have essentially today with the Bureau is a framework or a structure where you can essentially make complaints around data breach issues. So let me give a simple example with respect to an organization in the financial service sector, and myself or yourself. If you have any complaints around how the information that has been shared with such an entity is being utilized, you can go to the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau. That's one of the functions of that specific body. But also it also puts a face to the plans for the digital transformation agenda where it comes to data collation and data management, because we now have a structure where you can clearly dictate, or it is clearly being dictated how organizations should collect information.
Let me take the question again. The data privacy and protection ecosystem is being projected by stakeholders as an ecosystem with huge market potentials. What does DPP think that stakeholders, particularly policymakers across this value chain, can do to unlock these projected market potentials in Nigeria?
Okay, first, I would like to say that in Nigeria, the present approach towards implementation is fragmented, to say the least. So, off the top of my head, one of the few things I believe that would be beneficial to developing this sector is a more cohesive approach between both the public and the private sector in managing data privacy compliance. Now, as a data protection professional in this industry, I am grateful for the opportunity that has been presented, to essentially thrive and build a thriving business around compliance. However, I also recognize that as an operative in the industry, it seems like we are all working in silos. The government has its own mandate to essentially ensure that they put forward as much as possible, in the best way possible, the mandate of the digital transformation agenda. But I am not clear as to how that is being drilled down into the private sector, because we have a great divide where there's more or less lack of information, there's lack of an understanding among stakeholders as to the next line of approach to take. So my advice would be that there should be some kind of public-private partnership between the regulatory supervisory authorities and the industry stakeholders who, like myself, who are operating in this sector, so that we can come together and identify areas of opportunity that we can develop and essentially pick on from there. Now, one of those areas of opportunity that I have identified is around tech solutioning. It's very clear that to be able to collect information, store and manage it in an appropriate manner that would essentially comply with the regulation, it would be useful to look at the existing tools that are being utilized amongst businesses locally. Now, there is an opportunity to improve us on such tools and create specific tools for data privacy enhancement that will not only serve as meeting the compliance requirements, but will also serve as a platform for building marketing opportunities, and then also managing the customer relationship platform within a business structure. So that's one area. Secondly, I would like to point out that Nigeria would have to also consider that it is part of a greater picture. And the greater picture is the African continent entirely. The African, with respect to data privacy, there's an African continental privacy framework that is essentially, in place. And I think that was initiated by the African Union about a year or two ago. And it would be a very good platform for Africa to come together and harmonize the policies around data privacy, so that we can have one approach when it comes to the continent, which will also provide opportunity to build on, like I said, tech solutioning, creating more job opportunities, and essentially bridging the gap, when it comes to, the digital transformation needs of this century.
Okay. The other question will be, whenever data privacy and protection comes into focus, it's often regarded as a matter of concern only for big businesses. Okay, how do you think that these matters of data privacy and protection can also extend to small and medium-scale businesses in Nigeria, considering all you said about broad-based implications?
Okay, what I would say is that any small business operating in Nigeria, I believe, doesn't want to essentially continue to be a small business. There's opportunities to grow and expand. Now, what I have identified in the SME space is that there is more or less a lackluster approach to regulatory compliance as a whole. So it is clear that small businesses have to start to consider that where they are consumer driven and they have a need to reach out to consumers online at all in any way or shape or form, they need to present themselves in a more organized way. So data privacy provides them that platform to do that. Data privacy solutions can in effect provide answers to their questions around creating a useful database that they can essentially, mine and then groom and then grow over the course of their business. Let me give a simple example. Let me go with farming. A farmer who essentially farms chickens and eggs and is looking to provide an online platform from which end users like myself and yourself can order for eggs, chickens, and then have them delivered ultimately to whatever location, and then also possibly to businesses, hotels, and then fast food places. For this small business to essentially begin to put together a database of such customers, they will need to have a platform that allows them to collect data. Now, that platform from the get-go must have a privacy by design outlook, meaning that from the get-go, it is clear that the individuals you are targeting understand that when they're sharing this information with you, there's the opportunity to continue to build on that relationship and receive value for that, data sharing function. So in a nutshell, what I think is that any small business that is looking to upscale, to grow, to even essentially look at partnership opportunities in and outside Nigeria must consider, putting data privacy and data protection ahead of all other needs when it comes to meeting the regulatory compliance needs.
So, in summary, what do you see as the outlook for data privacy and protection in Nigeria moving forward?
If we had this conversation like about a year or two ago, I would have said it was, slow and an uphill task. But in 2022, I have found that there's an increasing awareness that is driven not only by, public policy, but also a clear understanding of what data protection entails. There have been quite a number of cyber threats and data breaches that have occurred that have become public knowledge and have in effect essentially said to individuals like myself and yourself that there is some value being derived by big organizations or entities that collect information. So I believe strongly that, especially here in Nigeria, it's on the up and up, but there's so much more work to be done around creating awareness, and essentially keeping the drive going as it may seem.
Is there anything in the course of this interaction that we may have left out that you may still want to add before we shut down?
I think the only thing I would like to address is the importance of the data subjects as myself and yourself and any individual who by virtue of the partnerships or interactions that they have with business entities have shared their information must look into. The onus is on you as the data subject to demand a level of professionalism and a level of compliance from the parties that you do business with. So whether it's a bank, whether it's a whether it's an insurance company, whether it's the hotels that you go to, whether it's your children's schools, we need to start asking more questions around how our information is being protected, managed, and stored. It is now a duty that each and every one of us have to consider taking very seriously, because it is clear that to an organization or big company, you are just a statistic that essentially will help in meeting their what's that, their targets, their annual target. So it's important that you take responsibility in demanding a certain level of service from a data processor. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ada. It's been great having you on the show, and thank you very much once again.